Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rock M Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards. That's Nathan Hurst. This is Before the Box Score, coming to you live post Boston College, pre Vanderbilt. Your Tigers are 3-0, still 3-0. Can't take that away from anybody. And we're going to talk about a little bit of the recap of Boston College, some further things that we liked and disliked, and preparing for conference season on September. Nathan Hurst, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's Wednesday. We're halfway home, back to the weekend again. Just working for the weekend. And during football season seems to be my driving motivator. Is just get through the week every week, make it around. So we're halfway there. Almost almost to SEC season. That's when it really kicks up a gear. And we got a nice little feed in to SEC season here. If we're going to start the SEC season with any team, I'd like it to be Vanderbilt. And voila.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it all off season. I'll reiterate again. Mizzou goes bad FCS team, bad G5 team, what we thought was going to be a bad P4 team, and then one of the consistently worst SEC programs. So that's a really nice ramp up period. Now, Mississippi State also exists, so Vanderbilt's not the worst SEC team this year. But, just from historical purposes and general line, they are the worst. So it's a nice dip your toe into the SEC moment for Mizzou here. But we do want to talk about Boston College before we turn the page into the SEC conference slate. Ignoring the fact that UMass trip sits there looming. Let's talk a little bit about Boston College, because this feels like the game that won't die. And it seems really weird that is the case for a game that Mizzou won against a ranked opponent. But here we are. I think a lot of the sadness, the angst is stemming from the close score and the mistakes that Mizzou made. And that's fine. Like, obviously when you only have one game per week and 12 games in the year, you got to overanalyze everything. It's every season is a puzzle box, and they tell you, hey, we don't know what it is, but last year it was blue. So you pull out the puzzle pieces and you got 12 of them. You're like, all right, well, maybe it's going to be blue. And you put one down and it's blue and you're okay. And the next one's like a little shade of green. You're like, well, what's this? What's this about? So it understandably, we have to overreact to each little piece. But I think both Hurst and I did have actual things that we were upset about with the Boston College game. So to add to the commiseration, the angst around our team, we want to talk about things we didn't like from the Boston College game. And then we're going to wrap it up with things that we did like to give us a nice little boost heading into Vanderbilt. So, Nathan Hurst, there's things to pick from the Boston College game that people didn't like. You wrote an article on something. What was the thing that you did not like once the clock hit 0 against BC Eagles?
I did not like the penalties that continue to plague this program. I did a little bit of research as a part of that article. I'm not sure if you remember off the top of your head, but do you know in 2020, let's just go back to the last 3 years, 2022,
okay,
middle of Eli Drinkwitz's tenure here at Mizzou.
Mm-hmm.
Where did Mizzou rank in penalties per game in the country? National.
I believe it was near the bottom, if I remember correctly.
It was 121st.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now in 2022, there were 130 teams in the country. I think there are now 134. We've added a couple. 121st is at the bottom. That is not good.
Yeah.
2023, just last year, where did Mizzou rank in penalties per game?
I think it was near the bottom again.
120th.
Wow.
Just really maybe marginally improved because they added a couple teams last year to FBS. Now up to 134, so it's 120th. We are now in 2024. We're only 3 games in, small sample size. Where does Mizzou rank in penalties per game?
Can I say last?
Not last. 115th.
Okay. Hey,
we have seen some improvement.
All right.
Now, is that the type of improvement that we're hoping to see? That the amount? No, I don't think that's the case. This year and through 3 games, where does Mizzou rank in penalty yardage per game? Not just penalties, but how many yards have been assessed.
I'll give you a range. Let me say the 75 to 100 range.
120th at
Damn.
85.5 yards per game. So that is bad. That number is the worst of the Eli Drinkwitz tenure so far. They've always been worse in penalties per game than yards per game because, for the most part, the majority of the penalties that we see in Eli Drinkwitz teams have been pre-snap penalties. Those are always of the 5-yard range. So when you're looking at the average, it's going to be lower. That has not been the case this year so far, especially this past week when we received 49 penalty yards on one single play. Now, there was multiple snaps that all kind of counted, or we'll call it one single down. Multiple snaps that led up to it. But when you get 49 yards of penalties in one single down, you're not setting yourself up for success in these rankings. So I will say that weights it a little heavily in the current years, in the current year compared to others. But you can look at the last 5 years. Now it actually has gotten worse every year. 2020, 58th in the country. 2021, 79th. Then 121st, 120th, 115th. So it's weirdly negatively correlated with the success of the team. As the team's gotten a little better, the penalties have gotten worse. So I'm not quite sure why that is the case, but that's where we are right now. So that's the big picture. Zoom back into Boston College, and we have what potentially could have been a pretty devastating amount of penalties. If you go all the way back to the very first drive of the game, I think the Boston College gets a couple first downs, their third series of their first drive, stop them, force an incomplete pass. Oh, wait. Chris McClellan called for illegal hands to the face.
Blatant.
First penalty on the defense all season.
Yeah.
That extends the drive. They end up scoring a touchdown. The next drive that they get a couple first downs, incomplete pass to get off the field on third down. Oops, pass interference.
Yeah.
That extends the drive. Now that specific drive, they ended up forcing a punt later on anyway, thankfully. So those are two right there. Then flip on the other side, first drive of the game, Mizzou is moving down the field quite nicely, get into close to the red zone. There's a penalty, push us back, put behind the chains, forced to don't get a first down because I think they started at 1st and 15 at that point, had to kick a field goal. Then, of course, we've got the debacle that we already talked about with the 2nd and 59. Mizzou was very much driving the ball on that drive as well. They were across the 50. I think they were at least to the 40.
They're at the 38 when that.
And they were really, that was they were showing no signs of slowing down.
No.
Before you know it, they're back on their own 15, and it completely destroys the drive. But I would put money on them scoring at least 3 points on that drive if they had not had that debacle. Yes. So thankfully, and we'll get to this as far as things we liked, Mizzou was by far the better team on the field on both sides of the ball, and they were able to overcome those penalties. It was an annoyance against Boston College. It will not be an annoyance against Texas A&M. It will be disastrous against Alabama. So this is something that has to get cleaned up. The positive thing is, if we're going to take some silver lining, these are correctable errors that they are making.
Yeah.
Pre-snap penalties. They actually had very few of those this game relative to Eli Drinkwitz's history. Okay, we didn't even have any snap infractions. We did have a bad snap, which killed a drive, but it wasn't actually a penalty. Those are the ones that you kind of put more on the coaches to get the team ready to go.
Sure.
Post-snap or post-play penalties. We had 3 personal fouls, 2 on Luther Burden, 1 on Joseph Charleston. Those are real easy to clean up. Real easy to clean up.
Yeah.
And I would be very, very surprised if we saw any of those this next game. You never know when you're talking about 20-year-old young men. But those are the easiest of all these cleanup. That's 45 yards of penalties right there. You could just hopefully.
Yeah. So I loved what you're doing here, because you're right. It is a consistent theme with Eli Drinkwitz. I'm just asking because I don't know. Did you see like the number of penalties that they've been getting over the years? Like, was there any data on that?
So penalties per game, 5.8 penalties per game in 2020. Okay. That was 58. 2021, 6.5 penalties per game. That
Okay.
was 79th. 2022, 7.7 penalties per game for 121st in the country. Slight improvement in 2023 at 7.2 penalties per game. That was 120th. So the penalties per game increased. Their placement in the country in the national rankings did not. This year, 9 penalties per game through 3 games.
That's
Now,
because it's 8, 11, and 9.
only 3 games. This past game really threw that off. But also,
Yeah.
Buffalo had a ton of penalties.
Yeah.
Several illegal formations, which were really annoying. Those got cleaned up, thankfully, for Boston College. Several very iffy holding calls in that game. Those got, for the most part, cleaned up for this game as well. But 9 penalties a game is not what you want.
No. Now, does it go further? Like, does it say there's X amount of false starts or X amount of like holding or anything like that?
I wasn't able to dig in that deep from the stats I was looking at. It didn't break it down by penalty. No.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, anecdotally, we can all know that the big bugaboo with Mizzou penalties, at least for the past 2 years, were holding and false starts. Right. That's a lot of them. Penalties of aggression, such as encroachment, pass interference, that sort of thing. Those happen too. I think I've mentioned this before this year, but I guess I'm curious if you remember. Do you know how many holding penalties have been called in Missouri so far this year? 3 games.
I haven't counted. If I had to guess, I'm going to go ahead and say 6. If I had to guess, 5 or 6, including 4 on that Buffalo game alone.
Yeah, it's 8 so far this year.
Oh wow, there's even more than I thought.
Yeah, now some of those have been declined, or at least one has.
Sure.
The Armand Mimbu one at Buffalo was declined. So I mean, holdings still exist, and that can be a judgment penalty, right? Kind of eye of the beholder sort of thing. So I mean, that's not great, but that has always been the issue, and through 8 games, it's like, okay, well, we're still seeing holding. The false starts and the encroachment, like really just any defensive penalty has been almost none. To your point, first 2 this past game, they made it 3 games without a defensive penalty. Now there were terrible timing, extended BC drives, but like that's good. Just to finally see that 3 games in, and really other than the personal foul and the pass interference, well, the unsportsmanlike conduct, but that was during special teams for Joseph Charleston. Zion Young had an offside, so like that was declined. I mean, yeah, I guess for me, I agree with you. I don't see it as big of a problem as everybody else, because number one, that's just life with the Drinkwitz team, and number two, like stuff that can be correctable. Like you said, 45 yards of penalties. You just don't yank a mouth guard and don't throw the ball at another player. Okay, that's easy. Get your alignment set up. Fixable, coachable. They were looking at the iPad like during the game, and we have not really seen one since. I will say I don't know if you saw the Khalil Jacobs illegal formation on the special teams. Homeboy was like 2 yards off the line of scrimmage, just inexplicably. I don't know why. He just forgot what he was doing. Coachable, fixable. It feels like Mizzou is a better team. It's just the types of penalties that they're getting are boneheaded penalties instead of like the usual aggression penalties or, brain fart penalties. But right. 8 holds is still not great.
No, it's not. You can forgive a pass interference penalty if a guy's going to knock a ball away. You can forgive a face pass penalty if you're just reaching out trying to get the stop, and sometimes it's just bad luck. You just you grab what you can grab and it happens. Yeah. The crackback block that they called on Josh Manning. I mean, I saw that coming from a mile away, but that's at least one he's trying to make a play. You hope he'd be a little smarter than that. And no, he didn't hit him in the head, but they've changed that rule so that you cannot block when you're headed back, when you're running towards your own line of scrimmage, which is what he did. So you can that's in the middle of the play. Plays that are happening in the middle of the play are much more forgivable than ones that happen after the play or happen before the play. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of both of the after and before the play penalties, and clean those up. And then, okay, you got a couple holding penalties in a game and maybe one offsides. And then, you can live with 35 or 40 yards of penalty yards in a game.
Yeah,
But you can't live with 85 yards penalty per game. You cannot go into
sure.
College Station expecting uh, to get that many yards per game in penalties. On top of the fact that we got all those penalties at home. What do you think referees in College Station or in Tuscaloosa are going to be,
Yeah,
feeling the pressure to toss that extra holding flag when the crowd is screaming in their face when they think someone's getting held?
yeah.
Um, it has potential to be a lot worse. So they need to get it cleaned up now. This week is the week to do it
Hmm.
because the rubber hits the road after this week.
And it's an SEC officiating crew. I mean, there's something to be said for a MAC officiating crew or an ACC officiating crew who we're probably never ever going to see again. Um, that there is something to be said for that. But to your point, yeah, let's figure it out now. SEC officiating crew at home against a team that, if you screw it up, is an annoyance. Probably, fingers crossed. But yeah, line up correctly and don't do stupid stuff or don't get caught doing stupid stuff. But if Eli Drinkwitz just gets stronger as the penalties get called, okay. Again, that's me being a little bit facetious, but it certainly didn't hold back last year's team. They didn't lose to LSU because of penalties. They lost because Jaden Daniels was a Heisman candidate. They didn't lose to Georgia because of penalties. They lost because Brady Cook threw a bad interception at a bad time. Like, perseverance, right? That's what we always talk about college sports. And boy, they're really good at persevering because they put themselves in a hole a lot. So maybe it's not all bad, or at least they're comfortable operating that way. But I'm with you. I would like to see it clean up. I'm not as concerned as everybody about that, but I do agree. Like, if we keep seeing unsportsmanlike or personal fouls like that, that would be concerning. So, um, let's talk about what I didn't like. I didn't like the rushing game. I didn't like it. I liked it in the first half. I thought it was nifty. I thought it was good. Thought Nate Noel was carving him up. And then the second half happened. And maybe this is an offensive line thing. We talked about the offensive line and the show on Saturday. They seemed a little bit overwhelmed, at least to start the game, in pass protection. And really, as the game went on, Boston College was able to stop outside zone, which is Eli Drinkwitz's binky. He needs that to run that and be able to confidently run that, and it just didn't happen. So Nate Noel had 22 carries. Nathan Hurst, at the end of the day, he had 22. Now his success rate is getting 50% of yards on first down, 70% of yards needed on second down, and 100% of yards needed on third down. For the past couple games, Mr. Noel was at, 60% against Murray State and 91% against Buffalo. Against Boston College, he had a 27% success rate. 27.3. And this is really easy to break down. In the first half, so first quarter, second quarter, he ran the ball 9 times, and he had 5 successful rushes. That's like 70%. In the second half, so third quarter, fourth quarter, he ran the ball 13 times and had 1 successful rush, which is like a 13%. They figured it out, man. They figured out outside zone. And I don't know if that's, again, an offensive line problem, a Nate Noel problem, or just Boston College was blitzing the hell out of them to try and get a turnover. I don't know what it was, but for me, following an Eli Drinkwitz Kirby Moore football team, that makes me concerned.
Yeah, what concerned me even more than them figuring it out was Kirby Moore going back to it about 5 more times after they figured it out. In the course of a game, well-coached defenses are going to make adjustments and figure out how to stop things that you're doing well.
Sure.
So it's your job as a play caller to then adjust to the adjustments. And if they've figured out how to stop the outside zone, and then you run it 5 more times for a total of probably about 4 yards, that's a problem. And that led to a couple drives really going nowhere mid or late third quarter, mid fourth quarter into the mid fourth quarter, where they would run it twice. First down, run it, stuff. Second down, run it, stuff. Then you're at third and medium, third and long, and you're hoping that Brady can make a throw, and he made a few throws to convert and move the six a few times, but um, they're going to have to find a way to adjust when that's not there.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they had a 2-score lead by that point, and it wasn't as dire. And Brady stepped up to made some big third down throws several times during that game, especially in the last drive. And I don't think we really talked enough about that last drive, and we could get to that here in a minute. But he made some plays. The receivers made some plays to move the sticks, but it wasn't happening on the ground. Now they did still have some success up the middle. A little dive play that Marcus Carroll ran a few times and get 4 or 5 yards there to make it manageable, make it a second down manageable. And maybe they got 4 yards, and so it didn't count as a successful run in the success rate. But still, you'd much rather second and 6 than second and 8 or second and 9. So I would say the running game on a whole was completely shut down. But that play, which is their bread and butter, wasn't working. And so hopefully they're able to figure out and make it work this week. Vanderbilt's got a much better rush defense than Boston College does,
really
at least by the numbers.
Yeah.
So you better believe that they're going to be trying to reiterate whatever Boston College did in the second half. It was working like gangbusters in the first half, but whatever was changed. And yeah, you're right. I don't know if it's a scheme thing, if the line just stopped blocking as well. Maybe they got tired, or Boston College the players figured out, if I take one extra step this way, I can beat them around the corner. Whatever it is, eventually you run that play enough times, a well-coached defense is going to figure it
out. I think I don't want to accuse Kirby of the same thing that I accused Eli a couple years ago of being a lazy play caller. I don't believe that, so I'm not saying that, and I don't want to imply that. However, I think to your point, he really wanted outside zone to connect. That's kind of a haymaker play, especially with an explosive runner like Nate. If he gets that crease, he's gone. And I think Kirby really wanted him to get that big run, and so he went to that well. When I do my beyond the box score, I break down like when the plays happen. Right? When did you call a run? When did you call a pass? And how did that balance out? And for Missouri, on first down, they're pretty balanced. 29 plays, 17 runs. You'd probably like to see a little bit more pass thrown in there. Just as a aside, to best protect your quarterback, you want to keep the defense on edge. And so really the best thing you could do in first down is to throw the ball, right? You can do anything. Let's throw and just see what happens. If you keep calling run and standard downs in first down situations, they start picking up on that sort of thing. So 17 runs to 12 passes on first down. And, you got 195 yards on first down, 65 on the ground, 130 through the air. Second down, 22 plays, 17 runs again. Like, now they were in second and short a lot. So I'm not saying this was a bad choice, because, on first down, their average first down game for the entire game, they were averaging 6.7 yards on first down. So like, you are probably in second and short anyway. You're probably going to run the ball. I get that. But those runs were not connecting on second down. 79 yards on 17 runs. It was not an effective use of your time. And then they still ran it. If you had 19 plays and third down, you still called a run 6 times. So the situations aren't crazy. Like, I understand why they ran Nate in the second half. He ran on first, second, third, first, second, first, second. Like, that's early in the drive is when they ran him. But his rushing totals for each one of those runs, 3 yards, 4 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 26 on that second and 60, 1, 5, -2, 0, 1, 2, 0. Like, and these weren't long downs. They're all first and 10 or like second and 6. And it wasn't there. It wasn't there that he couldn't get it. So I think you could probably mix it up a little bit more. I know the pass wasn't the most successful, as far as leaning on it, but yeah, I'd be really, you're never going to find out, but I'd be really curious to hear what the coaches were saying when they looked at the tape and could figure out what was going on. And then I want to know how they're going to counteract it, which we'll never know. But an Eli Drinkwitz team needs to run, and in the second half, they just couldn't do it.
It kind of seemed like they had so much success in the first half running that they just made the mental decision. We're winning. We're going to move in the ball on the ground. We're having success every time we run it, and any time that they didn't have success, that was tossed out as an outlier in the second half. By the time we got to the second half, it was, oh, we're running the ball great. That's just in our mind. And if they ran and it didn't work, that's an outlier. We're still running the ball. We don't get scared off the run because one play didn't work. So we'll do it again. And then it didn't, and so that's kind of the feeling, the vibe it was giving off. Because really in the first half, especially the first couple drives, I almost felt like they were not running enough because they were having such success in the first few drives. But then it totally flipped in the second half. We were having a lot of success on little crossing routes, great motion plays where Weiss will come across the formation and be open in the flat. A lot of success on that stuff, and they just weren't doing it. They were kind of waiting until 3rd and 5 to have that play to bail them out. It'd been nice to do that on 2nd and 5,
Exactly.
or even throw the ball downfield when you finally do have a 4-yard gain on first down.
Yeah. And if you want to play the game of Drinkwitz was up 2 scores, felt comfortable, and just packed it in,
it would not be the first time.
Okay. You're right. I do not like that. I don't. Whatever. You should not feel comfortable against a ranked opponent. You should not feel comfortable against an SEC opponent. That's just. But whatever. It worked out in the end. To your point about the 4th down, that last 4th down drive, or the 4th quarter drive. Sorry. You know who the guy was? It was Marcus Carroll. Because he, of all of our unsuccessful runs, he was all of them in the 4th quarter. He had 2 kind of in that first drive of the 4th quarter that ended up in a field goal, which was eventually the last score Mizzou had. But when it came to, nut up or shut up time, Noel had 2 carries at the beginning, and they're like, no. And they subbed him out, threw it to Burden for 12 yards. That was that big catch that he had. And then it went Carroll for 6, Carroll for 3, and then Cook ran for 5, ball game. So when in crunch time, when they needed the yards and they knew they're kind of getting penetration through the line, they went with their big burly boy, the one who weighs 215 pounds, and he was able to get the yards needed. So again, you have 2 guys. One is a big home run hitter who's pretty good in the intermediate too. The other one is, I think I called him a walking, talking first down conversion last show. You have those options. You can use those options, but you'd still like to see more successful runs. And if it needs to be Carroll over Noel, that's fine. I don't know. After seeing them kick so much ass on the ground the first 2 games against inferior opponents, it made me sad. But you wanted to see it in a win against this opponent so you could prepare for the upcoming slate. So we're feeling good. Did you watch the video? They're still doing the videos for the games. Did you watch the one?
I have not. I have not watched any of the videos this year. I'm a weird. Like hype videos kind of do the opposite for me. Like I find any hype video to be the cheese, no matter how well done. And I fully admit, Mizzou has had some very well produced hype videos. Yeah. I'm not a hype video guy. It's my own thing. They're not for me. I find any hype video to be the pinnacle of cheese. Yeah. But to each their own. So if you love those things, by all means, watch them smack, drink a bunch of coffee and run through the wall. That's great. If that gets you going, more power to you. If not for me.
So, I mean, I don't have the bug yet, just because the games have not been as the magnitude is not there as they were last year. But I watched both, and at the end of this most recent one, Eli's addressing the team, and he's like, "Was it perfect?" And everyone goes, "No!" Like they all realize they kind of stunk it out for a half there. But he mentions, he's like, we wanted to be tested and we were. We wanted to be taught lessons and we did. He's very open with what he thought about this game. And it smash cuts to Christian Williams, and he goes, "I can't wait to get better. We got the dub. I can't wait to get better. It's what it's all about." So I think mentally this team is in a good space. I think that's one of Drinkwitz's strong suits, is keeping his guys focused. But we have yet to see it. So we put to bed the things that we didn't like, and we want to see those things improve as the season goes on, or at least work around the weakness if it is truly a weakness. What did you like? Obviously, we won the game. We all loved that part. But what aspect of the win did you like while watching the game against BC?
I mean, I think there was no one specific. I mean, I liked a lot. There's lots of little things that I liked, but overall, I liked that this team was clearly the significantly better team of these two. Because I think Boston College is a pretty good team. I think they're going to win 8 or 9 games,
Sure.
which for them for the state where their program was, that's a phenomenal season for them. And I mean that means that they're a pretty good team. Mizzou was clearly far and away the better team on the field. Take away the penalties, take away a couple of boneheaded plays, which we talked about the last time. This Mizzou wins by four touchdowns, and we talked before the Boston College game about how the one thing we didn't really see, I guess we didn't really see Boston College blowing Mizzou out either, but really didn't see this being a blowout game. This very well easily could have been a blowout for Mizzou had they tightened it up here, tightened it up there, cleaned it up here, cleaned it up there. We're looking at a probably a 45-7, 45-10 game, 45-14 maybe. If everything is if they played it played an A- game. They did not play an A- game. They at best played a B- game, but I'd probably say it was a C+ game, and they won relatively comfortably. I mean, yes, they had to make a convert fourth down to put the game away, but there was no single moment of that game where I was like, oh, we are probably going to lose this game. There was never a moment in the game. So significantly better team on the field than a 8 or 9 win Power 4 team. That's what I like.
That's good. That's good. I will say I really liked the rush defense in particular. I talked about the pass defense and how I wanted to see them tested, and obviously they gave up some things there. So we'll ignore that for now. The rush defense was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. I went through when I was watching the game, I was tracking everything, and just when I keep track of success rates, I put like a little tick next to any play that's successful, whether run or pass, and it's all based off of down and distance. And I wasn't putting any ticks next to BC plays, like it just wasn't happening. So I went back and added them up. Boston College entered the game against Missouri with a 43.5% success rate on the year, which is fine. That's kind of median on the national stage. They had a 40% success rate rushing the ball and 50% success rate passing the ball. So on the day, their success rate was 30.4, which is 10% lower than what they were doing coming in. And their passing success rate went from 50% to 40%. Like Mizzou just knifed them. It's like, you're doing well, 10% off. We call them JC Penney's because everything was 10% off, right? Like they took him out. And this Boston College team loves to run. It's what they do. They pass when it's convenient, which is why their success rates are so good. But Boston College, my God, they ran. Let's see here. On first down, they ran 11 times and threw it 11 times. Second down, ran it 8 times, threw it 9 times. Third down, ran it 3 times, passed it 9 times, and 2 of those runs were scrambles from a pass. Like we took away the thing they love to do. I think I heard it somewhere. I forget where. Maybe it was you. I don't know. Somebody said that it was clear that Corey Batum wanted Boston College to beat them left-handed, and he made him do it. He made them right left-handed, and they looked very stupid doing it. Now they had some shots, but they could not do what they wanted to do, to the point where when they absolutely had to get yards, they said, "Screw it, we're not running, we're throwing." And that's not what Boston College wants to do. If you can make your opponent do the thing they don't want to do, you are a good defense. So defensive line, linebackers, bravo, excellent work against a squirrely little quarterback and a great rushing attack. Kai Robichaud had nothing. Turbo Richard had 1 carry. They had nothing to offer on the ground, and it was beautiful.
It was really great to see a very clear game plan that Corey Batoon came out with how are we going to slow this team down? We're gonna box keep Castellanos in the pocket. We're not going to overrush him and open up these wide lanes to let him run. We're going to stuff the run up the middle. Come out with this great game plan and then executed flawlessly, minus a couple blowups, which I wouldn't even call I mean, I guess you could call them execution errors, especially in the last touchdown. That was a blown coverage. The first
Yeah.
one was just a fluke. But as close to flawlessly as you can get, the players absorbed that game plan and executed it on the field from the beginning till the end, and minus a couple penalties that extended drives, a weird fumble rooski that led to a brain fart and a touchdown.
Yeah.
There, Boston College is lucky to have scored 14 points, let alone 21. So
Yeah.
it was excellent job.
Yeah. And those points still count. Like, we're not sitting here saying, "Oh, just take those out and you win," because you could play that for anything and be right. But the point is, Mizzou was so consistently excellent on defense that it took crazy, fluky plays to beat them, and they did happen. But it was a kill shot. It was a moonshot from 1,000 yards away. It was just, you're not going to see that again. So, yeah, on the whole, you can feel good about your defense, even in an effort where they give up 21 points. I'm with you. So we turn the page. We enter SEC play against Vanderbilt, widely considered the worst SEC program in the world. And they are squirrely. They are the guy in the bar fight with that weird look in his eye. You're like, oh, I don't want to mess with that. And you're not super worried about him, but you don't like the way he's looking at you, and you don't want to find out what's going on. And I think the big reason that Vanderbilt has this threat is because of their acquisitions in the offseason, specifically Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator from New Mexico State, his head coach, Jerry Kill, who did not want to be a head coach anymore, but wants to just advise programs that would play Hugh Freeze so he could ruin his life for eternity. He is a special assistant to Clark Lee. And then, of course, Diego Mother effing Pavia, the former wrestler turned quarterback. It's like 5'9", 220, just a brick house of quarterback. He is of the sacrifice everything to get the yards and points kind of guy. And he's got a little bit of Mahomesian magic to him. And it's working because Vanderbilt used to be one of the crappiest offenses of the league in the past 4 years. And now they're 45th in the nation. And I know that might not sound like super impressive to what we're currently the 10th best offense in the nation. Boy, it is noticeable. They're putting up 30 points. They're beating Virginia Tech. They're taking care of business against Alcorn State. They're running out of fireworks at touchdown celebrations, for Christ's sake. It is a killer offense. Yes, for Vanderbilt, but also just in general. It's 45th. That's kind of scary. I don't want to get Diego Pavia. We've played him before when he was at New Mexico State. How do you feel about the trickster demon coming back to Faroe?
Back to your original metaphor, Diego Pavia is the switchblade you're worried that the crazy guy at the bar has in his pocket, and that's why you really don't want anything to do with him, because you think you might just pull that thing out, and before you know it, you're on the floor bleeding, and you don't know what's going on. That's what Diego Pavia is. He looks like not a football player.
Yeah,
he does not look like a football player. He doesn't really look like an athlete to be at all. But the dude is a baller. He's just one of those guys that you would love to watch play because you don't know what he's going to do, and usually it ends up being something like, oh man, and he's the guy that you don't want to play against because he's going to pull something out of his butt against you that he has no business doing. He's going to scramble around, throw on a 3rd and 12, throw up some prayer across his body in the middle of the field. It's going to find the receiver that after 20 seconds eventually found his way open, and before you know it, you think you're getting off the field and it's 40 yards the other way. He's very annoying to play against, very, very annoying to play against. And it's going to be Corey Batoon's annoyance, and it has been for the last several days, and it will be for a few more days.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be one of those guys like, oh, let's heat this guy up, put him on his butt, and it's very difficult to blitz a guy like this because he's so shifty, in a different way than Castellanos was. Castellanos was very quick, jitterbug, juke and move, really high acceleration, 2 steps and he's at full speed. Diego Pavia is not that way. He's no less difficult to bring down, but he's more like a bowling ball than a little jitterbug. He does have some moves, but even when you get your arms around him, he's very difficult to tackle. Very strong, very slippery and shifty, and seems like he has more than one joint at his waist, so he can kind of bend out and stuff. So he's just really really annoying to play. It's not going to be a fun experience to watch the Mizzou defense get on the field. Um, I, I'm not worried because of the overall talent disparity between the two
Sure,
teams,
sure.
but I do know that he is going to make some Mizzou fans irrationally angry, and they may think that they're being rationally angry at Mizzou at the defense for one thing or another, and it's really irrational because that's just who Diego Pavia is. He exists to be a migraine for defensive coordinators.
Yeah. Yeah. And Vanderbilt's offense is very much a death by a thousand cuts sort of offense. Usually you associate that with like a triple option team like Army or Navy. They're not running the triple. It's just they get the exact yardage needed. I don't know how else to put it. Like if it's, to the point about Pavia, you look at his stats and you go, wait, I'm worried about this guy. 543 yards passing so far this year. For rushing, what is he at currently? With sacks, he's at 195 yards. You're like, what's the deal? No, you don't understand. He scrambles on 3rd and 2 and gets 2, right? Like he moves around the pocket on 4th and 3, throws it, gets 3, and you're like, we were right there. We just a second faster, a hair. It's the annoyance, right? It's the annoyance factor. They get exactly what they need. They take a long time to get down the field, but then they finish with points. And at that point, it's been 12, 13 plays. And good Lord, what am I supposed to do against this guy? So they're not explosive at all. It's all just exactly what you need. Efficiency-based offenses. And efficiency-based offenses are very consistent and they're very annoying to go up against. Ask anybody who's played Missouri that we're also an efficiency-based offense. It's tough. It's tough. One of the weirder things, and this just continues the cult of Diego Pavia, his completion percentage the past 3 years. So at New Mexico State in 22, it was 53%. Last year it was 60%. This year it's 64%. However, his accuracy while being pressured goes up to 72%. That is annoying. Why are you so good throwing on the run? You shouldn't be able to do that. He's he's less good when he's got 2 feet on the ground and can survey the field. So I think we can both agree on this. The defensive plan for Diego Pavia is almost exactly what they did against Castellanos, which is don't rush up, right? Don't overshoot him. Stay even with where he's at and keep him in the pocket so that he has to read the field and make the right read and try to throw the ball and then hope that any of your secondary can pick it off or at least disrupt it. You cannot let him run. You cannot do it.
I agree. The game plan for Pavia is I think going to be very similar, if not exact. I don't think it'll be the exact same because that's on tape now, and I think Vanderbilt is going to prepare thinking that that's how we might approach them as well. So I would expect to see maybe a few more blitzes or maybe I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do. It'll be very similar though. He's listed at 6 foot. There is no way he is 6 feet tall. No. If he's 6 feet tall, I'm 6 feet tall, and I am not 6 feet tall. So same with Castellanos, who's 5'9". At least he's listed more accurately than Pavia is. Yeah. You keep them at those type of guys in the pocket. They're trying to look over guys who are 6'4", blocking for them, and then 6'4" coming at them with their arms raised. It is very difficult for those guys to find receivers that they're looking for. He wants to get out of the pocket. I think he likes it when he gets a little bit of pressure up the middle and he can kind of roll out to the side, either run it because he can run well, or find a tight end for sit down for 4 yards and get a first down. So if they can take a lot of the same principles that they executed flawlessly last week and make those and do those this time, probably have a fairly soft zone behind it with the defensive backs with their eyes on him, so they're not when you play man, the defensive backs backs are going to be turned to the quarterback a lot more,
Yeah.
and that's going to make you much more susceptible to long quarterback runs because they just can't see what's going on behind him to turn around to make a tackle. So have a zone, eyes. Now we don't want eyes in the backfield. That was Marvin Burke's problem a couple times last week. But have eyes forward so that when the play is in front of them, and when he does get out of the pocket, which will happen, no matter how well they play it, he's going to get
Yeah.
out there. That they're able to rally and make tackles. He's not a guy that's going to break off of a 60-yard touchdown run necessarily. Castellanos could do that. He had that type of speed, but he can easily roll out and run for 12 yards and pick up a first down on 3rd and 11, and he does that all the time. So it's going to be really annoying. Prepare yourself, Mizzou fans. He's really annoyingly good.
Yeah.
He looks like he should not be good. He is good. He's annoying. Vanderbilt doesn't have much of a in the way of skill talent though. So it's kind of Diego versus the world.
Yeah.
They've got their running backs. All right. They have a tight end who's pretty good. They have maybe 1 or 2 receivers that are okay, but there's no one guy that they're like, oh, we're going to focus in on this receiver. We need to double cover that guy because he's got amazing top end speed or what have you. It's kind of Diego, get out there, make something happen for us.
Yeah. I still believe, you mentioned keeping him in the pocket and trying to throw against 6'4" guys. I believe that first interception, Thomas Castellanos could not see. I think he just threw it up because he basically threw it straight to Travis Johnson. I don't think he could see. So that's exactly what you want to do, especially for a guy of shorter stature. To your point about the playmakers, yeah, I think that's pretty true. I will give Cedric Alexander credit. He is a very good running back. He's got 40 carries on the year. Now they've only got 165 yards. Again, it's not an impressive offense. It just gets exactly what they need and nothing more than that. AJ Newberry is kind of their backup running back, but he's only run it like 10 times. And Alexander's pretty good at the passing too. He's already got 5 catches so far this year. But if you're looking at receivers, you got Junior Sherrill, Tristan Brown, Eli Stowers is their tight end, former 4-star quarterback, current tight end. But like Quincy Skinner is their big target. He's 8 catches, 123 yards so far, a touchdown. Junior Sherrill's got 6 for 87 and a touchdown. And then who's the other one? Cole Spence. Bigger targets, right? Possession guys. It's like, how Mizzou is what used to be in a receiver room of slot receivers. Vanderbilt's a receiver room of possession guys. So not a whole lot of burners. Again, they are not explosive. If they start cranking out 20-yard gains, we have messed up. Something has gone wrong because that's not what they want to do and that's not what they're good at. So it's going to be, the word of the night is annoying, right? Brought to you tonight by Diego Pavia. It is annoyance. And Vanderbilt has always been annoying, and they brought in a bunch of annoying guys on offense. So yeah, be prepared for that. On defense, I don't wish to alarm you, but Vanderbilt's defense is actually pretty good. To the point where they are 15th, I want to say, in rush defense. Yeah, currently 15th. And the Vanderbilt offense only has 3 guys returning who started last year. The Vanderbilt defense only has 3 guys returning who started last year. But the imports have made a pretty decent dent in the rush defense, which again, Clark Lee is their head coach and defensive coordinator. Weird. Don't like that, but he's a really good DC. So we'll see what that's about. But rush defense is very good. The reason they're ranked 96th is that pass defense stinks. And they give up big plays all over the place. So this is a situation where Mizzou is not an explosive offense, and efficiency based, and Vanderbilt is an efficiency defensive kind of team that gives up explosive plays. So it's a classic movable object, resistible force. I don't know which one's going to give up, but how do you think about breaking off some big plays? Can we do it?
If Mizzou can't hit a couple big passing plays in this game, it's not going to happen this year. This is the time to do it. This is the time to hit some of those deep shots, to take a lot more deep shots because they're going to be there. They gave up 36 points to Georgia State last week. and Georgia State is not a good team, and they gave up 24 points in the second half to Georgia State. I'm trying to pull up the exactly how many passing yards they did give up, but it was not. It was a lot. And Georgia State does not. Yeah, 269 passing yards, not a ton. 3 touchdowns through the air as well. 36 points against Georgia State. I don't care where they played them at Georgia State. Doesn't matter. Uh, I mean, it was just 20-yard pass, 20-yard pass, 20-yard pass in the second half. I think Georgia State finally figured out that they should stop running and start throwing the ball, and it worked. It also happened to Virginia Tech in the first game of the season. Their big upset win on Virginia Tech shut them down in the first half. I think they had like a 17-point lead early on in that game. Fairly big lead, and then Virginia Tech figured out they could throw, and they had a big comeback. I think they scored three touchdowns in the second half to actually take a touchdown lead before their own defense kind of melted down at the end, and they lost. To Vanderbilt's credit, they got the job done. But this is a game that Luther Burden should have over 100 yards. Theo Weiss should probably have over 100 yards. Theo Weiss could probably throw in another 60 or 70 and call it a day. I mean, they need Brady should be passing over 300 yards in this game.
Okay.
I'm not going to put a specific number and say they have to get to this number, but this is a game where it should be done and run the ball to the point where just enough that they can get away with running some play action. Enough that it's they have to at least think that they're going to possibly run, but no more than that, because that would be running right into what Vanderbilt wants you to do. They want you to run the ball. They want you to slow it down because they have a slow pace on the other side. They want to limit possessions. And that's their game script to win. Very similar to Boston College.
Mm-hmm.
Slow the game down, limit possessions. We're the lesser talented team as Vanderbilt. So the fewer possessions, the less likely it is that the more talented team can make a big play. So speed it up. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying do a high tempo offense, but throw the ball. Try to keep the clock from moving too much so that you increase the number of possessions if you're Mizzou, because the more possessions you have, the more likely it is that something good is going to happen.
Yeah, playing slow ball is the underdog tactic. It used to be kind of when you and I were growing up. The underdog tactic was to go as fast as possible and wear out those battleship class defensive linemen, make them run all over the place. That's not the case anymore. So yeah, you want to go slow. The other fun thing that we can do here is we can look at the injury report, because now that's mandated when you play SEC games. Fun. So I don't, I research these teams. I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert on them. So if some of these were already established, that's on me. Like, for example, Missouri's injury list includes Darius Smith and Sam Horn, who were lost before we even really entered fall camp. Well, for Sam, and then Darius during camp. So, like, I get that. These might be losses that they weren't even participating. Joseph Charleston is questionable, by the way. But for Vanderbilt, let's go through their injury list here. Zaylen Wood, who I know started a game at defensive tackle, out. Mark Davis, cornerback, out. Boubacar Diakate, edge, out. Grayson Morgan, interior offensive lineman, out. CJ Taylor, safety. This is key. He's out for the first half. One of those targeting things, right? And then you go, Eli Stower is questionable. He's a tight end. Cole Spence, tight end, questionable. Maurice Hampton, star. That's actually an outside linebacker for them. Maurice Hampton, start, questionable. Bryson Coleman, tight end, questionable. Corday Snyder, defensive lineman, questionable. So you go through all those. It's almost all defenders. You got some tight ends in there. I guess the tight ends had some bad curry or something, but it's almost everybody on the defense. So if this is a time to find your groove back, right, get some explosive plays, this is it. Because boy, 2 defensive linemen and an outside linebacker are out.
And their best defender, as you mentioned, the safety is probably Drinkwitz thinks he's one of the best defenders in all of the SEC.
Yeah,
he's out for the first half. So take advantage of that. First possession of the game. I want to test the backup safety as much as I possibly can. If you look at the Georgia State game, that's what happened in the second half. Is he went out, Georgia State starts throwing the ball. They put up 24 points in the second half, including, I think they had just over a minute left and went the full length of the field for the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, You're at home. It's Vanderbilt. I think, what's the spread? Was it
It
17?
was 20 and a half
20 and a half?
yesterday when I looked at it. On Tuesday, it was 20 and a half. I would be surprised if it moved much beyond that.
I feel like you can make a fortune betting the under on
Hmm.
Missouri games, but whatever. I just never feel like Eli Drinkwitz is going to cover. That's all. So we talked about what this game can do, and obviously they're missing some key players, but every game's got a guy who steps up. That's why we do the MV3 every single year, or every single week, I should say. So I guess in your mind, let's pick an offensive player. Let's pick a defensive player. If Mizzou wins, offensively, this guy stepped up. Defensively, this guy stepped up. What do you think?
Offensively, I'm going to say I picked Brady Cook last week. I'm going to pick him again this week for a different reason. He's going to have to hit a couple deep shots here, and he's going to have the opportunity to. And I think he's going to. It's finally going to work for him. And so he's got to be accurate. He's got to stay efficient. But I think even beyond that, take a couple more shots because they're going to be there. So if he doesn't take them, I think it's going to actually hurt the team because there's not going to, the alternatives aren't nearly as high of a reward, especially against a team like this.
Yeah. Defensively, who do you think needs to have a big game for Mizzou?
I picked the linebackers as a unit last week, and
Sure.
Vanderbilt is such a sort of similar team to Boston College in terms of how they're going to play Pavia. I'm going to pick the linebackers again because they're going to have to stay at home and keep a spy on him just to make sure that he's not wrecking havoc, which he very easily can do. So maybe I'll be a little more specific, and I'll say Khalil Jacobs. Last week he had a great game.
He did. Yeah.
I'll put it at Khalil Jacobs again today. Just enough havoc. Maybe grab a sneak in there, grab a snack and a sack when they're least expecting it, or really just be fast on the edge whenever he rolls out. Whenever Pavia rolls out to the side, he's got to be in his grill and make his life as difficult as possible.
See, now I want Khalil Jacobs to make a tackle in the backfield and pull out a bag of Cheetos and just.
So, or can he have some of Luther's chips in his?
There you go.
In his sock. I mean,
brand awareness.
Right? Hey, we just talked about trying to eliminate these personal foul penalties. I don't think that would be the way to get on Eli Drinkwitz's good side after last week.
Look, man, those Luther chips are delicious, but they're 75% air. So just think of it as a extra padding for getting hit. So for me, offensively, I'm also going to cheap out a little bit. I'm going to say the offensive line. You kind of got your scare against Boston College. You got your wake up call, like, oh, this is what it's like to go against a P4 defensive line that wants to kill you. So I think they can bounce back, but I want to see it. I want to see them really have success in pass protection. I want to see Brady Cook not have to run for his life when he's trying to make an out route. And I want to see some holes for Nate and Marcus to run through. Doesn't have to be clean. I want to see outside zone work. I want to see, pulling guards and not run into each other or get blown up. I want to see the offensive line do well. And so that's offensively, that's what I want to see. And that's going to make everything else work around it. Defensively, I agree with you. I think the linebackers do need to have a big game because I do think they're going to have more opportunities to hit the quarterback than they did last week, I should say. Because a lot of it was just contain, spy, play the shell, and then chase after him when he runs and get him out of bounds rather than take him down. Diego's just, he's a chaos agent, man. Like you don't want to press the issue with him. You want him to feel comfortable so he gets bored and has to make a traditional read, a traditional throw. So to mix it up, I'm going to say I want to see the corners. Toriano and Drayden, I want to see them in coverage once again. I thought they did well against the Boston College team that has success with surprise passes. Obviously, the safeties blew a coverage a couple times, and that's whatever. I want to see the corners stick with these receivers because I don't think they're very good. And if they start going off and getting these 3, 4, 5 conversion yards, that's going to bug me, and I want to see what they can do against that. So I think if they have a big game, that's going to be good for the defense, and then the offensive line has a good game, be feel good before the offense for Mizzou. So let's get to prediction time. I'm once again going to make you go first while I think in my head what it's going to be. But clock hits 0 against Vanderbilt. What's the score?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go a little bit higher scoring than last week. I'd say 38, 38-17, 38-20. I think it's gonna be 38-20. I don't think they're gonna quite cover that 20 and a half. But they're going to be up at least 2 scores late in the game, just like against Boston College, perhaps even 3 scores. Um, it won't be it will not be an uncomfortable win by the fourth quarter, but it'll be really annoying in the second quarter.
Yeah, I see that. Beware of scripted plays, right? Offense, they have all week to get their first drive set up. And Boston College did really well, and they still needed defensive penalties and a fourth down conversion to score. And that's the tip to me. I was like, oh wow, your scripted plays really, you got lucky on those. I don't feel good for your fortune going forward. I do think Vanderbilt will probably have a good first punch on both offense and defense. I don't know if they're going to be able to last. So in my head, I'm thinking, I went into this thinking like 42-17. And then I went, wait, this is Eli Drinkwitz. So 35-17, 31-17 is probably where I'm going to sit at, just because I think the defense can do well against this. It's, again, basically the second week in a row of playing a similar offense. I think the Mizzou offense can probably move a little bit better, but the tempo and the penalties, it's tough to tell. So I'm stalling, and I'm going to say 35-17. That's what I'm going to say, which would not cover. So
no. They're penchant for stalling out at least one drive and kicking a field goal. Maybe lean toward the 38. Otherwise, I might have gone to 42 myself, just because I think they are going to find a lot of success in the air. Their defensive backs are not good enough to cover the Mizzou receivers. Mm-hmm. And I think they're just going to put up they should put up a lot of yards in the air. We'll see if they do, but they should.
We'll see. You will see. We'll figure it out on Saturday. I believe the game is at 3:15. Yeah, 3:15, because that's very important to start at that time, not 3:00 on the dot. But that's the show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or rate us. We love all types of feedback from you all. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Nate G. Edwards. He's at Burst of Hurst. Of course, you can follow the Rock M flagship at Rock M Nation and our podcast and outlet at Rock M Radio. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, MIZ.
ZOU.